Okay, here was a challenge. So a customer um, has a BMW motorcycle dealership and evidently races vintage BMWs. And this is the stock camshaft. He brought this in. He brought a drawing in. This is standard stock camshaft. I don't know. It's a bike from the '60s. I don't know the model or anything. But he needed a camshaft with a race profile. I, of course, do not do camshaft grinding, but he wanted a blank that he can work with. So this is the blank. This is what I did. Machined out of S7 tool steel in the annealed state. Kind of a cool piece. Some differences. It looks like they made it a lot lighter weight for quicker revving, but it was a little tough figuring out the machining on the S7, but in annealed, it's really not too bad. That wasn't really the main challenge. Details, there are flats here. I got that figured out. That wasn't a problem. The trick was, one of the difficult things, and they didn't have specs on this, so it has a keyway for a Woodruff key, like the almost half round, but it also has this slot on the end that needed to be clocked to the keyway, and they didn't have the angle, and so I had to figure out how to do this. So I'm gonna get a different camera or do something and show what it looks like on the machine, what I had to do, but trying to figure out how to clock the keyway to this slot at a random angle. It ended up, I measured it at 39.7 degrees, probably supposed to be 40. I'm sure that's close enough, especially when you're talking 60s technology. But it took me a while. I started this job not knowing how I was going to do this. In fact, I had a rough idea, and last Thursday I put it on the machine and tried my first idea of what I was going to do, which basically was to put a key in here, clamp it in the vise against the key, which would kind of line it up straight, and then go from there. And I quickly realized that was way too rough and it wasn't going to work. But while I had it in the vise and these special jaws that I will have on the machine, I realized that a special fixture was needed, and once I figured that out, it all kind of came together. So I'm gonna get that fixture and show you guys what it looks like. Okay, so this is actually an old die set that we, years ago, I don't know, 25, 30 years ago, we put holes in to clamp it to a regular 6-inch Kurt vise. And so you have this height, extra height for doing weird jobs, and it's amazing how often it's come in handy. So what I did is I actually, it was just about the perfect height to put these camshafts to stand them straight up. First thing I did is machined a key out of aluminum just because it was easy. It was a metric key. I didn't have one in the shop, and that goes in the key slot. And so what I was going to do is clamp it in here, with like a spacer. And anyway, nothing was really working out right. So what I did, as soon as I looked in here, is, oh, I know what I need to do. I machined these two blocks, and they have that diameter of the shaft where the keyway is, and then one of them I machined a keyway slot in there. So put the camshaft in, clamps on there right where it's supposed to be. I have one of these. I have a pair of 3/4 by 1.5 inch precision ground steel parallels, and I actually had to space this out just to get it to work in here. So I dropped the camshaft with this fixture block in place, clamp it, get it close, slide it up against the stop,
for repeatability, which was actually a basic, a loose reference. I would indicate each one to make sure they were right on. Then when I clamped down, and I could feel a ton of flex because there's only like an inch and a half that at the bottom of the jaw is actually clamping again. So I just clamp it lightly, then take this monster cant twist and clamp across the top, and that's where the actual clamping comes from. It's just in place with the vise clamping on it. And then I would indicate it, set the height because it's not real solid down below. I had a shim down there, and then I cut it with a 1/8 Z-carb end mill. So to get the angle, I took a test indicator, I touched off on 4 points in that slot, got the coordinates, drew it in CAD, and that's how I got the angle.
So I spent a lot of time trying to figure out how I was going to cut that angled slot, clock it to the keyway and everything. Worried about it for a while as I was working on this job, but it was kind of interesting. Once I got it in the machine and looked at it, like it suddenly kind of clicked, everything came together, and it worked out really well. Probably couldn't have handled a lot of vibration for a heavier cut with that setup, but as is, it worked great, and so now I can deliver these camshafts to the customer.